Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. We're going to bring you the latest in AI news, no matter how crazy, how wild it is. And we're going to share it with you, our perspective and our thoughts. Now, listen, guys, before we dive into it, again, thank you for joining us. Really, really appreciate it. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Say hi in the comments. We want to hear from you. And let us know what you think. We tend to dive deep into not just the stories, but also have a bit more of a philosophical sort of debate sometimes. So sometimes we just scratch the surface. Sometimes we go deep. Depends how we're feeling.
Depends how we're feeling.
So Will, tell us about this story. It sounds really cool. It sounds futuristic.
Yeah, we're on the sci-fi end today, and sometimes we have, the newsy ones where new models are being released. Sometimes we have the philosophical ones where we're talking about how AI is going to take over the world. This one is just pure sci-fi, and I love it. It's from Google, so it's a reputable source, obviously. And not only is it from Google, it's straight out of Google's research lab, which publishes a bunch of things that Google are doing, in the background to research and develop different things. And this one is pretty out there. It's called Project Suncatcher, and it's Google exploring what will be a space-based, it's hard to say, scalable AI infrastructure. And what this essentially is aiming to do is to harness the sun's power, because in orbit, obviously, solar is a very good source of energy. And they're going to be launching a bunch of satellites, or their aim is to launch a bunch of satellites. At the moment, they're just going to be doing some experimentation by sending, a couple of satellites up in, 2027?
2027.
I think 2027.
Prototypes. Yeah.
And they're going to be sending up some prototypes with what they have on board is called TPUs, which stands for tensor processing units, which is a great way to train and run large language models and other AI models. And yeah, the aim is to basically build out what is essentially space data centers, interconnected satellites, all at low orbits, training and running AI models, which is purely sci-fi. And I love it. And I think this is again another fantastic thing about AI is it's now forcing us to think about other means of running this AI, other areas of technology and science are being pushed as a frontier directly because of the need for AI as a technology. Ben, what does it say to you when you read something like this?
Oh man, it just it's like I'm imagining what it's going to be like in 100 years. That if I was alive in that time, which I doubt we will be. But it's just, we'll be on a spaceship and we'll be, rocketing all over the place. It sounds wild. We'll have AI that's, that's on device, because when we go deep space, we'll be out of satellite ranges. But actually, when we're a little bit closer, there'll be interconnected web of satellites for maybe, we need to, update a model or whatever. So we won't necessarily have to land back on Earth or Mars or wherever we go. And yeah, it's interesting because when in previous conversations, we were talking about, the crazy thought of, going to Mars, that if you we're going to have AI on our ships in some capacity, but that's going to have to be on-device AI. It's not going to be able to get a signal from Earth to travel into Mars or even on Mars. So it's interesting because I hadn't really thought about the whole concept of, well, actually there is maybe a stepping stone where you'll have satellites. So the reach would be a little bit further. Whether the reach would actually be able to, go all the way to deep, to Mars or wherever, who knows? But I think it's just really fascinating. And again, I guess they're just, utilizing an abundant source of energy.
Yeah.
And they're replicating, I'm guessing they're going to replicate what they're doing on Earth.
Yeah.
Which is powered by, every energy source that they can probably get their hands on. Because, the big models just consume so much energy. They're just going to replicate what they're doing on Earth in space. I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. Is there is an abundance of solar energy in space, so Google seemed to deem it as a long-term, scalable way to scale up compute, because that's something that we're doing we're doing here. Slowly but surely, we're spending, all frontier companies are spending more and more money, huge sums of money, on data centers, on GPU clusters, on scaling models, because at the moment, our best law that we have for making better AI models is the scaling law. If you chuck more compute, more data, and more time at a model, it almost always it consistently gets better. And you hit ceilings along the way, architectural ceilings or algorithmic ceilings, but the moment you take that ceiling away, you solve the problem, the scaling law resumes. Like every time you think you're plateauing out there, you solve some other problem, and then the scaling law continues. So that's what's happening here. Is, a few years ago, or a year ago, most companies were spending, give or take, $1 billion on compute power. As the years go on, we're going to be hitting 5-10 billion if we're not already there in some of these companies. And then by 2030, some companies are estimating $100 billion spend on compute. It's ridiculous amounts of money. So
and
now
they
we're
need
kind
energy.
of
That's the thing, is people forget that they need a huge amount of energy, and if I'm not mistaken, there appears to be a massive rush for more energy to be able to deal with this requirement. And it's solar. That's the thing that people don't necessarily realize. It's solar energy that they need, because it's more imminent. It's quicker. Yes, you're relying on whether it's sun or not, but nuclear is going to be too slow for now, because they need to build up power stations. That takes time. China, by all accounts, are absolutely. I don't know any of the statistics, but you'll be able to look it up. But basically, they are producing massive amounts of solar farms, which is off the scale, because I think they see this as part of the reason, and I think there's a massive supply shock that's needed almost. That the amount of energy is required, and solar is the key. I wonder, thinking about it, whether that we're talking about the satellites in space, whether that will actually, I'd imagine it would, but whether it would actually, we're talking about as solving a space problem for AI, but actually, is it going to help solve and maybe even drive down the cost of the amount of solar that we need, solar energy on Earth? Because obviously on Earth, you've got maybe more restrictions, whether that's land costs, whether that's bureaucracy, that's planning, or, X, Y, Z. Think of a million hurdles. But in space, I wonder if it's going to be easier in some respects. Obviously, it's not easy to launch a rocket, but I wonder if that's a thought as well, whether it's going to help increase the capacity on Earth.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that there is an energy problem, as we need to put more compute to keep up with the demand to run these AI models, but also train smarter and better ones. Because what we want to do is hit a level where these AI models are helping train themselves. Well, they already are to a degree, but be able to do proper AI research to advance it beyond what we can do. And there's a couple ways that people are looking to do that, and it's forcing us to think of new ideas. One of them is indeed solar, and by launching satellites into space, solar energy is so much more effective than it is down here on Earth. The second one, interestingly, which is an area I'm quite interested in, is nuclear fusion. There's a lot of research and development. OpenAI have always invested in it, in the research of nuclear fusion, which will be the golden bullet for all. You'll be able to create so much, and unlike nuclear fission, which is what nuclear power plants that you know of now do, which is where you're smashing big atoms apart and breaking them apart. Nuclear fusion is doing the opposite, where you're taking two tiny atoms, bringing them together, and that creates huge amounts of energy. That will be the golden bullet for powering AI, because that creates just massive amounts of energy, clean energy as well. Doesn't need a big footprint like solar. So there's a lot. This is what's really fascinating to me about AI in this domain as well, is that we have started developing a technology. We've recognized a law in that technology that we have to throw more computing power, more data, and more time at these models, and they get better. So now we're being forced to think of new ideas to how we actually achieve that. We're hitting the limit, really, on what we already have. We're building humongous data centers and humongous training setups to be able to do this, and we're going to hit the limit of that as well. So now we actually have to look at the fundamental ways of how we power these things. And yeah, solar, space, nuclear fusion, all these crazy ideas are coming out now, and it's going to become a reality, which is epic.
What's wild, I think, as well, just thinking about the future, is when you look back at a movie only 10, 15 years old, and it's like talking about AI, and you go, it's almost like a snapshot in time, because when that movie came out, you go, oh, it's never going to happen, that's never going to happen. And it's like people watch this show now and they go, oh, that's never going to happen. That's horseshit. That's rubbish. It's never going to happen. In 15 years from now, are we going to be going, wow, that's actually happening? That's wild. Because, when I watch these, not even that old AI movies, which I just love, it just goes, oh my God, literally, that's a snapshot of, that at the time we thought was a real distant future. But actually, it was literally around the corner. We had no idea.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's wild, is people, it's almost like you can't imagine, you can't get your head around it, because it's so ridiculous. It's so out of the spectrum of our normal day-to-day mundane lives of the grind and getting down and just doing the job or whatever, getting the groceries, taking the bins out. You cannot even compute it in your own mind. So it is going to be an exciting next few years to see how this all pans out, I think.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, exactly. I love watching it happening and getting involved in the discussions as well. It's awesome.
Mate, awesome. Listen, guys, let us know what you think. Tell us if we're crazy. Tell us if you've got a different perspective. Tell us if there's something to add to the conversation as well, because we're learning, and we want to just constantly have these sort of thoughts and debates and conversations. So hopefully you got some value out of it. Let us know. Keep tuned in, and we'll keep bringing you the latest in AI news and sharing our views. Take care, guys. Bye.
Cheers, guys.